Just yesterday, at least at the time of recording this, we had the Daredevil trailer drop, as well as the Until Dawn movie trailer. As well as literally just before sitting down to record this, I saw that Sony cancelled a live service God of War game.
Don't you love a happy ending?
Which has kind of brought me to the realisation that for the rest of this year, media is actually looking much more positive than I was expecting. Media has been in a weird place, all forms of it. I mean, with AI growing at a scarily rapid rate, Elon Musk coping that he's Tony Stark when in reality, and you take 20 seconds to search him up, it becomes apparent he's not the greatest of individuals and is actually closer to Obadiah Stane. America on the whole finds itself in a strange place, as does the UK in our own special way.
Until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up.
You need someone like me who's not afraid of Doctor Who.
I mean, seriously, beefing with Doctor Who is absurd in its own right, but let alone David Tennant, a national treasure, one of the most progressive celebrities that I've seen.
But it's not fair!
And don't worry, this isn't going to be a massively political video because, frankly, I'm not educated enough to do that. But all of these things play into our media. Our media is a reflection of what's going on in the real world, and vice versa. Before we go on, leave a like if you could, and subscribe if you want to hear more of my yapper. It helps me greatly on this platform, and I love to continue the yapper with as many of you as I can. So one of the films that's going to be releasing pretty soon, and under kind of the big monopoly company that is Disney, is Captain America Brave New World. I mean, what a coincidence that there is a major plot point of an assassination attempt on the president, and even him turning into a big red monster. Sounding a bit too familiar. Since we all got locked away for a few years, not only the state of cinema, but media on a wider scale were taking more controversial steps. Streaming attempting to overtake the cinema experience was a big one. We had the CEO of Netflix saying that watching films on different screens doesn't make a difference, essentially comparing an IMAX screen to this and saying it doesn't change the experience. And don't worry, I'm not about to go on about how you can't watch stuff on your phones. Of course you can, but quoting the CEO, there's no reason to believe that the movie itself is better in any size of screen for all people. My son's an editor. He watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone. Right, I don't mean to be horrible, but if you're saying your son's an editor, what, does he make a good living off iMovie? Sarandos seems dedicated to destroying the theatrical experience. So from someone whose first IMAX film was Oppenheimer, and up until that point I didn't understand kind of what IMAX was all about. I loved the cinema experience nonetheless, but IMAX specifically I didn't get it. Because I hadn't experienced it. But since then I'm obsessed, and factually it would have been a worse experience watching it anywhere else. Artists like Nolan and Jordan Peele continue to kind of push the technical side of filmmaking. They've made such big waves when it comes to IMAX. We watched Alien Romulus in a Dolby screen, and since then I've watched that film twice at home on my normal TV. But the immersion provided by that screening, not only by the massive cinema screen, but the audio setup that shook the entire room, phenomenal, that you just don't get anywhere else other than a cinema. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Netflix app on my phone has a feature that does that. Disney, the big one, having a total monopoly on masses of established IP and affecting it negatively, quite frankly. Deadpool and Wolverine is fun, and I like it, but without taking away the sentiment of Logan's finality, because realistically, Hugh Jackman wanted to come back, that's great for him, and he clearly has a great time doing the film. But comparing the artistic approach to Logan, or even the first two Deadpools, to the MCU-ified, foggy-looking Deadpool 3, it's night and day, and I remember when Marvel Studios took pride in how their work looked. So turning to actually finally look at 2025, and first topic, still on Marvel, being Daredevil. A show that is very dear to me, that I've spoken about a few times before and will definitely continue to do so. Also a show that is visually stunning. Now, let's get this out of the way. Yes, it looks like they've totally forgot how to light and colour grade the show, but with that said, I want to talk about why I'm excited. This show started as some weird reboot, totally ignoring the previous series before it had a total overhaul. And I'm so fascinated by the behind the scenes of this show. We've now received our first trailer that encapsulated a tone that feels much more effective to what serves this character, as well as more in line with what has come before. The action has the same visceral grit and darkness as those original quality Netflix shows. From the reception and views alone comparative to other MCU projects and the previous fan response to the original approach to the series, it's been loud and positive since the overhaul. Mix that in with Brave New World, despite the fact I'm not holding out too much hope because of the thousands of reshoots that it's had, and the fact that it looks like they couldn't afford to go outside in what I'm assuming is the final act. But at least on a narrative level and in the editing, if the trailers are anything to go by, it feels like a project much more driven by an artist's vision. And similarly with Thunderbolts, practical action. I don't remember the last time Marvel provided us with some quality practical action set pieces. All this isn't to say that I'm now in favour of Disney's monopoly, absolutely not, and quite the opposite, but just to say that maybe, just maybe, these people are starting to hear what the fans are saying. It feels like there might be more thought going into these pieces of art now, rather than just going through the Disney MCU machine, which each project seemingly does have to go through still, of course, but maybe that machine is slowly suppressing a little bit. DC, giving a director the head role to produce and drive a connected universe, a director who has proven to care deeply about character in his work. Leading up to the trailer that we've had that feels different. You know, I like and dislike stuff about it, but it made me feel something just from the trailer, which, you know, is an absolute art form in its own right. And then we have surrounding films such as Mission Impossible 28 years later, Avatar 3, and they might all suck, but I think people are making it clearer that we care about these things as much as the creatives involved. So the top hats that are funding these and greenlighting these should care as much as they and we do. Looking to the gaming scene, Suicide Squad, a game that I only recently started playing because I was not paying fucking 70 quid for that shit. I mean, I'm having fun, but it's hard to be disappointed when you pay 3 quid for a game. Objectively, it's not a good game, and it has been a colossal failure. And Avengers similarly before that. So the news of a God of War game getting prevented from going down that same route feels like a positive change, a positive step. The Until Dawn movie, from the sneak peek, I was very against this. I love the game, and I love David F. Sandberg, and I think when it comes to game adaptations, you want to see the best elements of the game translated to the film medium, but not just a total copy and paste, because it's a game, so objectively that's not going to work. But with the full trailer, I'm still incredibly skeptical, because it does feel so different to the story of the game. But I'm much more open because now with a bit more of a picture, it feels like an incredibly bold idea that very well may not work, but it showcased enough relevance toward the game that, as I say, I welcome this attempt more than just a straight up copy or a straight disregard, such as most of the Resident Evil films that basically had nothing to do with the games. It gets to the point where using an established IP is going to hurt the project. That's exactly what happened with Mark Hamill's Child's Play. It was different enough that it could have been its own movie. The fact that it was actually related to the IP felt so forced and actively dragged the film down. A massive factor as to why I'm feeling so positive going into 2025 now is because also 2024 did feel like a better year. Neon-breaking records, it was a year where Terrifier 3 did much better than Joker 2, a film that had its predecessor gross $1 billion. And of course, like, things are still going in scary directions in the real world and in the media landscape, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm just ignorant to all the shit that is going on, because I'm absolutely not, but I just want to try and look ahead positively. And I mean, Warner Bros. Continue to embarrass themselves with how they treat stuff like Mickey 17 and prove Nolan right to have ditched them. They're also fucking with that Daniel Day-Lewis movie as well, which is really strange that he's coming out of retirement to do, one of the greatest actors. Disney continue to control way too much and chuck stuff out as if it's a factory line, and some of these studios will never hear. I mean, they are factually out of touch. You have ones like Sony saying how critics ruined the Spider-Man-less Spider-Man movies and that they're actually good, but you know, I don't even need to say anything. That's just one of the most brain dead ideas and thoughts I've ever heard. Netflix just trying to cope after spending insane amounts of money on shows and films that aren't good, and anything it does spend on good ones, it cancels anyway. the cinema experience proves to be more than a viable format. Films are still cutting runs short to push it onto streaming earlier, but it does feel like they're giving them more time gradually. A simple fix to this would just be don't announce that it's going on streaming until near the end of its theatrical run. And as already spoken about, on the Disney front, at least when it comes to Marvel, it does seem like they've heard. They've condensed their output over the last year or so, and they seem to be hearing what the fans are saying. Admittedly, I'm still so checked out of Star Wars, and with all of their properties, if they continue looking back at what we used to like as opposed to creating new things and progressing current characters and finding new ones, then that's going to be an uphill battle for them. But that's why I feel so positive about this Born Again trailer, because it doesn't look like a totally lesser version. It looks like it's using its new home as a more prominent MCU property to its advantage, except for the MCU fog, of course. And just to quickly close off this video, I wanted to just say, rest in peace to David Lynch, a true artist who stood by his passion and visions and wanted to create, and did just that. And I'd be wrong not to mention him within such a video. Take care, guys. Have a good one.